What's going on? This is Brett Snodgrass, and I'm really excited to interview the guest of this short show, Jaspreet Baveja. What's going on, Jaspreet?
Not much, Brett. How you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for being on the show today, and got to know each other the last couple years. It's been quite the journey together, man.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me. It's been awesome so far.
Yeah, man. I want to have you on the show. This is kind of a personal show to me. Most of the times we have guests that I talk to all across the nation, and sometimes I know them, sometimes I don't. And I love talking to people that I really have gotten to know, and we've had plenty of conversations, not only about investments, mostly about investments, but
Right.
about family and our journey together. But I want to just give our audience out there that's listening to this, tell me about you, man. Like, where are you from? What have you been doing? Do you have a day job? Tell me about your family. Just kind of give a little summary about who you are.
Well, born and raised in India. I moved to the U.S. when I was about 15 years old, and been around the States, but been in California about 10 years now. Actually, 10 years this week. So it's been an exciting journey, but I had a stable, well-paying job at Kaiser, a well-known healthcare company. It's got over about 250,000 employees, but nice stable job, and my wife still works there. But about a year ago, May of last year, I decided to hang that up and get into real estate investing full time. And believe it or not, 90% of my investment strategy is passive income. And so that's what I'm doing now. And I have had rentals in the past. I've flipped homes, done private lending. I'm a part of multiple syndications across the States in multiple different asset classes through multiple platforms. And I think for me, that's what I found to be the best. And that's what I love doing. And I actively search and destroy passive income opportunities and just take them down as fast as I can and deploy the funds as best as I can. We've, I was able to get the capital through just decisions that happened to work out the best way possible. We bought homes in the Bay Area in the past. That's where we live now. And we rent now. And that the sale of our primary residence and a rental that I owned in the Bay Area definitely gave the biggest boost possible to get the capital we needed to go into passive investments. But it's been the best decision ever. It's a lot of weight off our shoulders to not have the stress of owning a home and the mortgage and everything else that comes with owning a home. But and the passive income's definitely been amazing. My wife luckily has all the benefits still, has the 9-to-5 that she loves, and the benefits are amazing. So yeah, we're quite blessed in that, and I definitely thank God for that. I've got 2 kids, elementary school and preschool, so quite a handful having them on our hands the last 3.5 weeks so far.
Yeah, it's a blessing and a curse at the same time.
Yes, sir. Every day it's like nonstop. Oh my God, I love this. Oh my God, why are you doing that? Oh, this is so amazing having you here. No, don't do that. Yeah, it's been amazing.
And to put a little just context, if you're listening to this show at any time, as this is going to be out there pretty much forever, this is during the stay-at-home order. We are dealing with the coronavirus right now, so everyone's working from home and staying at home, and no school. So Jaspreet's kids are at home. So are mine. So if you hear a pounding on the door, I apologize.
Exactly. And if you hear screams or yelling in the background, you will know exactly why that is. April 2020 is going to go down in history.
Amen. Amen. So that's just a little about you. You had a pretty good job. I've known people that probably similar to working in Indianapolis, like at Eli Lilly. I have a couple of friends that are pharmaceutical sales reps or medical device sales reps. Make pretty good money, I would assume. So I'm assuming
yeah, no, definitely.
Good money, and your wife makes pretty good money, I assume. So
yes,
you had a really good job, and which can be a blessing and a curse at the same time, because a lot of times that does put kind of the handcuffs on people because they have that lifestyle creep. And where it
Yeah.
sounds like you guys have made some really good choices. One of the best decisions I made, this was a few years ago, I sold my house and we rented. And I will
Yeah.
tell you, the money from just the down payment alone, because
Yeah.
mine's not expensive as like California, but I was like, I'm going to save, let's see, $60,000 from a down payment, and I can make some pretty good money on that, more than
Yep.
the interest that I'm, on a house, right? So
Yep.
that was the reason. But anyways, you made some great choices. You gotten in some money, and that freed you up to invest. So,
Yep.
and one of the reasons why I want to talk to you about this show is we've been working together. We've had a relationship more on private lending, and
Yes.
some people don't really know what that means. But I want to get your take on when you were kind of looking at investments. Take us through that a little bit. And you've done a lot of the private lending these days. I think you bought some rentals before, but take us through kind of your decision process. If you're a person, you have some money and you're looking to invest in some sort of vehicle passively,
Mm-hmm.
how did you come up with some of these decisions? And, you ended up private lending, plus you're doing some syndications now as well. But talk us through that.
Yeah. Well, I think one of my best friends here in the Bay Area got me into thinking around cash flow and investments and looking beyond a zero net cash flow. I mean, my rental in California was, I would say, zero net. It may not have any expenses, but there was definitely no cash flow after, putting in reserves and property taxes and all that stuff. It was definitely a zero net cash flow deal. And he said, you know what, look, I mean, I know you're running the appreciation train, but maybe you should look at doing some cash flow deals. And so we got into the indie market. He had been in indie for a little bit. So he introduced me to the Indianapolis market, the Bigger Pockets podcast, and the wholesalers in Indianapolis, and said, all right, this is what you need to get started. So that was my first intro to cash flow investing. Bought a few rentals, went from 1 unit to 9 units within 3 months. That was because of 4 duplexes that I bought in Indy and the house that I had here in the East Bay. So that experience was enlightening, because these rentals put together didn't even amount to the down payment on my one rental here in the East Bay. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. Well, holy crap, I can buy all these all cash and they'll cash flow. And it was this, rosy glasses on, but quickly learned that, out of state investing in the rental market is not all walk in the park. And slowly those turned into flips because I just had to get out of them. Couldn't handle the constant changing of property managers and dealing with tenant turns and dealing with tenants who, honestly, one of them went schizophrenic while living in my unit, decided to destroy the HVAC units, call the health departments, and just had a slew of repairs and fix this and fix that. The pipe, somebody broke the pipe in the basement. What do you mean somebody broke? Well, this guy went schizo and just decided to literally break this stuff in your house. So it just led me to say, okay, you know what? I don't want to deal with tenants that are in that asset
Schizophrenic.
class.
I don't want to deal with schizophrenic tenants.
Yeah, literally. I mean, it's just not what I want to be dealing with. And I wasn't seeing the returns I was promised. And I decided, okay, well, that's not for me. Let's flip these houses. And luckily the indie market was appreciating at the time. So walked away net positive from all of those. And in that process, as I had developed networks with wholesalers and dealing with individuals who were in the space and well-seasoned investors, I got an opportunity through one of them saying, hey, look, I'm doing a deal where I will give you X percentage return and you'll be the lien holder. And I was like, wow, you mean I'll be the lender? Yeah, you'll be the first position lien holder. And they had a little blurb in the email that they sent out as to how it would work. Then I got in touch with them, walked through with the lawyer as to what it would take, what are my protections, understood the process a little bit, but decided, okay, it's for me. Let's do this. Let's just give it a shot. Why not? And the returns that they were promising were lower than what I was expecting in my rentals, but higher than what I was actually achieving in my rentals. So I said, all right, well, not much to lose here. Let's give it a shot. And it was a hefty amount. It was, I think, close to $250,000, but it was still something I said, all right, well, let's just give it a shot. This is a well-seasoned investor. They've definitely done hundreds of these transactions in the past. And so once I did some research, I went through with that, and that's what got me snowballed into doing these for, more often. And I still have my 9 to 5, so I was still earning money, and I was using our income, both my wife and I income, to, do our cost of living. But the investing that I had started through the rentals, rolled into the private lending. And I would say that was definitely one of the better decisions that I made. I have since done a flip in Texas and actively flipped in Indianapolis, but I would still say that of all those experiences, for the amount of effort that you have to personally put in as an investor, as the lender, into a transaction for private lending is considerably lower than you would do in any other investment strategies. Now, if you were doing bonds and mutual funds and REITs, sure, it's similar strategy. You do the upfront investment, you do the upfront understanding, and then you put your money to work and off it goes. But I think the return rate has been way better in the private lending scenario than it would have been in the other investment strategies that I came across. So that's what's been leading me down the path. But
Awesome.
it's been awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing. So I guess what I got from that was that passive cash flow properties wasn't that passive. No,
Oh, anything but.
you had to constantly think about your tenants and problem solving and managing your property managers and the turnover. And then sometimes you're collecting money, but sometimes you're not. You're spending money. And so that's kind of what led you down this private lender. You got introduced to this, which that's kind of how we met and we've been working together.
Yep.
So private lending, just to kind of give, if anyone's listening to this, basically is what Jaspreet's talking about is instead of being a landlord, you're the bank, right? And
Yep.
what was the quote? It's like, hey, why'd you rob banks? And it was because they said that's where the money's at. So
Yep. What if you're a banker? Is it a banker or a robber? What's better, right? Or what's worse? But yeah, I've heard everything related to robbing and banking. Those two go together hand in hand. But I think being the bank has definitely been one of the best decisions. And I think what differentiates the private lending versus hard money lending or transactional lending or any of the other lending tools out there is that there's already a pre-built relationship, or there's already some sort of a connection to the company or the person that you're lending to, and you've done business in the past. And I know that for me, getting introduced to you, either I had bought a deal through you, or I had evaluated transactions, we had talked in the past, or investors that I was working with had bought properties through you or sold to you. So there was already this pre-built sort of relationship or level of trust, and it made it a lot easier to get that started. But if you've never done one, which is what my first deal was, I think having a well-seasoned company that has a proven track record of, even if they're a wholesaler or they're a flipper or they're a company that does turnkey rentals, anything that you can look at to track their history, their transactions, their delivery on what they've told. You can look at, if they're doing the right way, you can look at the county records and you can see how many transactions are they a borrower on, and did each of those transactions have an actual release of mortgage, and did they actually complete those transactions? That's one of the key ways I look at stuff when I'm evaluating someone. Well, you've done these transactions, you say that you've done them, you can produce a fake closing statement, but the county records will never lie, right? So if I can look you up in the county records and your name is on those deeds, and I can look up your LLC in the Secretary of State in any state that you're in, and your name shows up, all right, now you've got a proven track record that I can verify. So that's made it a lot easier for me to track individuals who I'm giving my money to on these transactions, and it's been awesome so far.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I want to just kind of point out, because a lot of people have just an opinion about this, and I just want to say that anyone can be a lender, right? Not anyone can open up a bank. There's certain rules, right?
Yep.
anyone can be a lender to an investor. And I want to put those really key words together because I don't want, there are some regulations and things like that that you might have to look at if you're lending to a primary homeowner, like if I
Oh,
was
definitely.
to live in this house. But private lenders and mom, anyone can lend to an investor. And those are the types of relationships that I have. And that's really what I want to talk about now is that I've worked with banks before, and it's it's not the most glamorous thing. There's a lot of hoops that you have to jump through. There's appraisals that you have to do. There's I have to give all these documentations and you know in tax returns for the last 3 5 years. They ask me all these questions about what these deposits were for, and it's just it is a really difficult situation working with banks, right? So I still work with banks, but not very often, and I've
Right.
chosen to
Closing
work.
timelines.
Yeah, and the
That
time.
right alone.
Yeah, definitely, and the timelines. So I've chosen to work with private investors like Jaspreet, and because it's simpler for us. And sometimes we have to pay a higher return than a bank, but just the efficiency is so much better. So, Jaspreet, I want you to talk about what do you look for when you look to work with a investor. I know you've talked about, at least at first, a well-seasoned company, someone that has a track record. Is
Yep.
there anything else that you're looking for when you've been working with us or any of your other investors?
I think there is a level of trust that has to be developed beyond just seeing their track record. I mean, the way they approach you, the way they present the transactions, how transparent they are about where they stand, what the exit strategy looks like, how are they calculating these ARVs, or did they actually get a BPO? What, are they licensed, and do they know what they're talking about? And even if they have a track record in California and now they want to go buy a property in Louisiana, you know, that track record doesn't apply. That market no longer is the same market. So are they open and honest about that introduction? Hey, look, it's a new market for me. I'm hiring this broker to do a BPO, and I've got this appraiser, or I've got this inspector. Or I think honesty and transparency have been the key factors that I've looked at for a new investor that I want to lend to, beyond just, like you said, the track record. And I've found that in an abundance with your company. And I know I don't want to sound like a biased show here, but I think, honestly speaking, I gained nothing from saying this, but definitely had an amazing experience so far with your team and you personally in what you've been able to share, what you're able to present as documentation, interacting with lawyers to make sure that everything is covered 100%, and walking away from transactions has not been a problem either. Say, okay, you know what, hey Brett, I don't feel comfortable with this loan to value or this property or this neighborhood or whatever the case is. And we've been able to have honest, open conversations and parted ways on transactions, whether it's from your end or my end. And it never had a sour feeling, right? So that to me is a massive plus, is that if you're able to have an open and honest conversation and walk away from transactions and still come back to the table as if there was no hard feelings, that's been a massive plus point. So I would say definitely it goes beyond just the company and the track record, the individuals involved, how they behave, how they transact, how they are able to communicate their needs and their plans, and be an open book, literally sharing their financials of the health of the company, right? That's a massive plus point. So I think it is just as much the person running the show or the company as it is the company's track record that's important in determining how you approach, or if you do the transaction or not.
I like it. No, I like it. A key takeaway that I got is you haven't even talked about rate of return.
No,
Right? It's all about honesty, transparency, and the character
yeah,
of the borrower, right?
yeah.
And that's cool. I like that.
Yeah, no, as important as a rate of return is, right? I mean, there's 1,000 different ways you can invest your money and get a similar return. Right now, I know people who are shorting the stock market, making 20-30% in a day, forget a year, right? Or people who ride the train and are day trading and making way more money than I ever could in my lifetime. or they could be investing in REITs that are generating 20-30% returns, in the great market. So it's just, there's enough investment vehicles where you can get this or better or worse returns. So it's not always a rate of return that should determine where you invest your money. I think having that trust, having a security, I mean, yeah, all those banks back in 07, 08 lost a lot of money, even though they were first position lien holders, but they were literally giving money away to anyone. Stated income loans, overinflated property values, like 90% loan to values or 100% loan to values on value, properties that were worth half that. So I think as long as you do your due diligence and you invest with the right person and you have your right security channels in place to make sure that you can get at least your bare minimum, principal back, is a massive plus point, because you can't buy that insurance in a REIT. You can't buy that insurance in a wholesale flip that you wanted to get into. You can't. There's no other investment strategy that gives you that little investment insurance that says, yep, at least the land is worth this much. If the house disappears and the insurance lapsed, and worst case scenario, at least I can sell the land for 10 grand. You know what? At least that 10 grand is guaranteed in my name. So yeah, it's not the best insurance, but it's better than any insurance you can get on any other investment strategy. So I've definitely come to appreciate what this investment vehicle has to offer. And for me and my family, that works out great. And I say my family because as I've introduced my other family members to you. We've done transactions with them, and other investors I've brought to the table that I'm able to walk them through this process and bring them to the table for transactions. So I believe in it enough that if people approach me and ask me for an investment vehicle, whether it's buying an apartment complex or a flip or a rental property or this, I can honestly tell them from experience that my best experiences so far have been in this investment vehicle, where I know for sure that a good chunk of my principal is quote unquote insured against loss in the worst case scenario.
Yeah, definitely. And I love what you do. I mean, you've kind of asked me for certain things about the investment. And so whenever I bring a proposal of a property to you, there are certain things that I do put together that it's basically like evidence, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we're in the courtroom, it's like, here's my evidence that my opinion is this is a good deal, and here's the evidence to support that, right?
Yep, exactly.
So that's been really cool. And one of the biggest compliments that anyone can do is referrals. Any business will tell you that. And
Yeah.
you've been able to refer us to friends or family of yours. And
Yeah.
that's been awesome to work with them as well. I want to give you we got a couple more minutes left in the show, but
Mm-hmm.
I want to give you one last opportunity. Just, especially the market the way it is right now. Obviously, if someone's listening to this a year from now, it's going to be completely different. But right now, the stock market is just crazy.
Yeah.
You mentioned people are making money. Well, a lot of people have lost a lot of money too, right? Um, so it just depends on which side that you're on. But it's a
Yeah.
roller coaster ride right now, and there's just a lot of uncertainty out there. And one of my lenders, typically at the end of each month, I can send out, or each quarter I'll send out reports, things like that. And one person
Which
said
have
to
been
me, which is a great compliment, it's like, man, I really am glad I didn't lose 30% of my investment. It's still the same, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's exact same, and the return's the same. But what are some tips that you can tell just that person out there that has some money, that the stock market's just kind of uncertain right now, and when they're looking at investing passively, what are some other things they should kind of look into?
Man, I think right now, if you've never done a deal before and you want to get into passive, I would say take a harder look at the ARV, or make sure that your loan to value is maybe a little bit tighter to make sure that you build in a buffer for in case the property values fall. If you wanted to get into the stock market, make sure you understand the risks, because it is insane, right? It's somebody has to lose money for you to make money in the stock market. That's just literally how it works. And that's not the case in real estate, right? You as the property values have gone up, whoever's buying it on an appreciated value is still walking into a house that's valued at that price. It's not that they're losing money by you making money. But, I would say that evaluate that sort of balance, that make sure that if you're going to get into an investment, you protect yourself, you understand the risks, you can plan for the worst is what you do. And so make sure that your plan is well prepared, that you have the securities in place, whether it's a lien and a mortgage, recorded deed, and insurance and personal guarantees, or whether it's any other investment, like you're buying a rental, make sure you buy it at a property value, a price point where you can buffer in that loss. And make sure you're ready for tenants to be evicted, and your turnkey property that you bought in January may not be so turnkey anymore because now your tenants can't pay your rents. Right? It's just, I think at this stage in the market, you need to be 100%, well, you can never be 100%, but you need to be quite certain that the investment vehicle that you have always known for the last 3 years, when the market, all the market, stock, real estate, everything was doing amazing, those strategies can't just be brought over as is into April 2020. You have to make sure you modify, whether it's your lending criteria, whether it's your investment criteria, whether it's the prices that you offer, whether it's the ARVs that you evaluate. You need to make sure that you build in those buffers, build in those risks, and the added expenses and costs that you're likely going to incur in doing tenant turns and doing evictions and doing, not being able to have money coming in to pay your mortgage on a property that you own as a rental. So I think right now you just need to evaluate the risks a little bit closer, build in buffers, and just make sure you modify your investment strategies from what they were 3 months ago. And if you can hold on to your cash a little bit and see how the market does, great. If you need to deploy it, I would say deploying it with well-seasoned investors like yourself and others who have a proven track record, who know what they're talking about, are able to work with you on the rate of return and giving you securities for your investments, and are still willing to get into that transaction, then great, right? Just as long as you build in the buffer, you should be good to go.
Awesome.
Hopefully.
Awesome. Hey man, love the advice. Thank you so much for just joining me today. It's a pleasure. And if you're listening to this, Jaspreet, he's not getting anything from this.
No.
Actually, it could hurt him now if I get more investors. No, I'm just kidding. He's love working with you and all your referrals, man.
Definitely.
And yeah, I would just encourage you, if you're seeing this, I'm just glad that I looked into things, right? And I ask questions, right? I think we get so just in our ways that we just do what we've always done, and you don't ask any questions. I remember I had a financial advisor, and my wife and I, we were handling the stock market, and we were doing that for about 6 years. And I looked at my statements, but I was putting money into it as well. And I was seeing it go up, but this was like 2012 to 2016 when the market was just constantly going up. And I asked my financial advisor, hey, like, take into account all your fees, like everything involved, like how much money am I making year over year? And I think he said I was making about 4%. And this was when the market was really going up. And I never asked the question, right? And I kick myself because I'm like, why didn't I ever ask, like, really, like, how much am I making?
Yep.
And he said 4%, and I was like, man, I could do better than that by just going outside, right? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think you could just walk on the street and give money to a guy who's just opened up his lemonade stand and invest with him and still make better for them 4% returns,
Yeah. So I wanted to do this because I just want to help people work with us. It doesn't really matter to me. I mean, we're still doing okay, but I just want to encourage people to ask the questions like, is your investments really doing well? Or is your financial advisor really doing, and what are their fees? Like, I didn't even know how much he was making. And or just really looking, and there's some options out there, and I want to encourage people to look at your options, and there's some really good options. That's a lot of people watching this don't even know that you can actually do what we just described.
Yeah. No, I think, not having to, and if you're not doing, 30 transactions a year, and you're lending to a couple of people a year, or you're doing maybe 2 to 5 deals a year, depending on your state and city and all these. I mean, there's regulations in different states for different things, but this is the one thing where you don't have to go out and get a license to be a bank and to loan your money. If you have a pre-built relationship, that's the easiest way to go. It builds in security for you. So, you're investing with someone you already know. And it, of course, gives you a little bit of credibility. If anybody comes asking like, oh, well, you can't just loan out your money. Well, I can. This is friends and family or somebody I know, and I gave them my own money. Nobody's going to stop you. Your taxes, of course, your CPA is going to tell you how to put it in. But as far as I know, it's just like a 1099 interest statement that you get from your bank is what you generate, and you're good to go, right? It's just to say, hey, this is the interest you paid me this year, or this is the interest that I earned, and it just goes in your income statement, and boom, off you go. So it's not some amazingly overcomplicated thing where you have to learn how to be a financial advisor, or to get a certification, or to be a mortgage broker. I mean, there's a lot of things out there that cost a lot more money up front, but this is one of those transactions where you can get into it easily. Make sure you do your research, make sure you understand the process. If the borrower doesn't bring you a lawyer to have a transaction or a conversation with, make sure you hire your own. Understand the process 100%. And that's what I help do for a lot of my friends and family too, is that I make sure I walk them through the process, show them the templates of the documentation, make sure that they understand what the inherent risks are and what their recourses are if they do ever, their borrower defaults. So it's just, as long as you understand the process, it's a lot easier than a lot of the other investment strategies out there.
No, I love it. And we've had a lot of conversations with our attorney.
Yeah, exactly.
Emails back and forth, and it's been fun. But you've helped me be better, right? And that's good. And it's good to ask questions. And I always want to get better. And if I can be better at explaining this or the documents or the process, I want to do that. So thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Definitely. No, I appreciate your openness to the feedback, and your your ability to pivot and say, okay, well, oh yeah, you know what, I didn't account for that. Let's take that into account. And whether it's cost, or whether it's other documentation, or whether it's an additional risk item, or whatever it is, it's just, the more questions you ask, whether as the lender or the borrower, the better it is overall. Because like I said, it goes back to the first point: openness, transparency, honesty, communication, right? Those are the top things that you could possibly have as a lender and a borrower. So that's what leads to the best relationship, and you can move through, even if you defaulted a loan, I'm sure that we would be able to walk through that and come out better for it, because I have faith in our relationship and the way we do business, both of us, that we would be able to survive that. So, to have that level of confidence is hard to come by, but it takes honesty, openness, communication, and the openness to take feedback and implement changes. So I appreciate that you've been able to do that, and your company's been able to do that for us as well.
Amen. Amen. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Jaspreet. It's always an honor and a pleasure, man. And anything
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Anything else we can do for you, then I really appreciate it. But someone else, I'll ask permission for you. But if someone does watch this and they want to talk to you, I'm sure you'll be open to that.
Oh yeah, definitely. Anytime.
Sounds good. Well, thank you so much,
All
man.
right. Take care, bro. Stay safe.